morning. It's hot again. It was cold this morning. I'm heading to Albuquerque, where I don't want to go, but I'm going to be on the news. So they're going to do a story about me. I lost my big sunglasses, so I'm now back to my actual ones from the 70s, which are a little bit broken and lopsided. And then I've got another pair of sunglasses. I was like, I need sunglasses if I'm going to drive an hour on a sunny desert day. So anyway, so the local station, KOB, called them up yesterday. I was like, hey, I need to do a story about this. I want to pressure local law enforcement to actually take a stand against people that are red light runners and all of this, because especially Albuquerque, this area, Santa Fe, you could live in Santa Fe pretty much without a car. I mean, it's not that walkable, but you can take the train to Albuquerque if you work down there, right? There's ways to get around. But if you live in some place like Albuquerque that is quite spread out, that does have some public transportation, but generally for your family and your livelihood and everything, you need a car. It's like Houston, you have to have a car. So yeah, but not only that, but repeat offenders, it's kind of like you pay to get out of jail free. It's like, okay, but then it's the Lamborghini effect. It's like, oh, a Lamborghini driver gets a speeding ticket. Well, he drives a $500,000 car, so he'll just pay the speeding ticket and it doesn't faze him. He'll keep speeding. There's only so much you can sue someone for in New Mexico, and the law really makes it difficult to get recourse. And of course, the insurance company has taken their sweet time. So, if I can just kind of gather all the resources together, whatever needs to be done to replace my home, to get back to 11:45 a.m. instead of 11:55 a.m. when I got hit. And then whatever's left over will be donated to local organizations that help the same kind of, veterans, women veterans, domestic violence survivors, and with an outdoor or self-defense classes kind of aspect to it. So I'll have to look around and see what organizations are here. So whatever's left over will go back out to the community. But yeah, just asking kind of for the community's help. It's not really for me, it's for everything that I do for everybody, but that is my home. And there's only so much that can be replaced, on paper. And the rest of it, you kind of need to humble yourself and ask for help, which I never do. It's like, I'll feed the homeless before I feed myself kind of thing. That's how I've always been. So yeah, it's just kind of a really hard place. When Harriet and I lost our home in the hurricane or the flood, and then we had some other issues that came up that didn't make the situation any easier. One of my friends started a You Caring or GoFundMe or something like that, just to kind of alleviate, fill in the gap for what the assistance that we did get didn't cover. And we got, a little bit from FEMA, that kind of thing. But it was there was a little bit, and it was only $1,500, but that was enough to kind of do everything that needed to be done for her, including getting childcare so that I could take the time to go sort out whatever was left in the apartment, so that I could run around and she could go play with other kids while I'm, kind of trying to get everything sorted. So it paid for that. It paid for, got her some new clothes and things, the things that FEMA doesn't cover. FEMA covered, and FEMA took a long time to send that money. And so when it got back, I made sure to make donations on behalf of, I matched the donation. Then I got a job at the University of Houston in August of that year, which was great. I worked there for about 2 years on and off, with some other projects in between, and it was great. And so once I got that job, I got $1,500, and I donated it to local organizations to kind of pay it forward. So yeah, sometimes you just need a little boost to get over the fence. But it's really hard to even need to ask. I'll always try to figure out every last resort before I ask anybody for help. That word. But anyway, yeah, when was the last time you did anything that was, in your neighborhood, grassroots, in your community? When was the last time you said hi to your neighbor? I will drag people out by the earlobe to make sure they actually do that stuff. But for stuff for myself, like I said, I'll starve for 3 days if it means I don't have to ask anybody for anything. But then you still have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. So we'll see. And my friend has a bet that it's not going to be on the 6 p.m. news tonight. I'm like, they're filming it at noon, and they wanted to do it pretty early, so they're probably going to edit the 3-minute blurb, and then we'll see what happens. So I don't know. You don't know what your neighbor's going through. But yeah, I mean, I I did nothing but to make a left turn on a green to go to Trader Joe's, and my entire existence was uprooted in this instance. And it needs to be fixed, because this isn't a weekend warrior van. Even if it was, it still needs to be fixed. But I'm not, I'm not living in sticks and bricks. I'm not working for the investment firm. I'm not traveling on the weekends like I did when I worked for the investment firm in 2022 and stitching together my vacation time. This is my full-time, pretty much, except when I go back to Houston. It's my full-time home outside of Houston. It's my full-time office. It's my full-time means of running a charity that I don't get paid for, and all of my time is in it, basically, when I'm not in Houston with my daughter. And so yeah, I mean, this is my life work. This is what I want to do for the rest of my natural life, is basically save other people's lives. But I can't do that if I don't have my tools and resources. Like, don't say stuff like you need lifelines. And in this day and age, in 2026, your lifeline is your vehicle, if you have one. It is your health insurance, if you have it. And some people, are in situations where they have to pick and choose. Do I feed my kids or pay our healthcare premium? Well, I'm going to feed my kids first, right? Like, unfortunately, the American dream is you have to choose. You don't get to have it all unless you're like super wealthy. Like, if you're just middle class, working class, like, the American dream makes it very difficult to have everything. You have to choose. Am I going to pay my rent this month or feed my kids? Am I going to pay for daycare and go, spend half my paycheck on daycare to work, or am I going to have to just work part-time and take a lesser paycheck, and then I can't pay my premium? It's crazy, like, that we have to make those choices. So the best thing I did was build the van, and I built it 5.5 years ago, and everything that's in it was purchased back in 2020. So I haven't had to really buy anything at all in the last 5 years. Everything is in there, except for, like, just general stuff like toiletries and whatever, toilet paper. But the van is the van. Like, it's the van that I built in 2020. Or 2021. It's very not very different than what I originally. There's not been many iterations of it. I've just made a few upgrades in terms of making it a little bit more functional. I did replace the porta potty 2 years ago, so that was necessary. The little handle broke. But then, there's been repairs and things like inside, like replacing some things that are worn out. Just investing in, another power bank, getting another solar panel. And even at the scene, not one single bit did he like help pick up anything. I'm out there picking up pieces. The PSAs, the police service agent, was picking up pieces. And I literally, it's like, I'm out there helping. The fireman showed up with a broom, and that was good. Like, I didn't really help that bit because I was just watching the firemen, because they're firemen, and it's not like Houston where they look like someone's uncle. Like, these were like nice looking firemen. So I was like, oh, you're here to sweep, please sweep. So I wasn't very helpful in that, like, 2 minutes that they were doing that. But yeah, all this guy did was his girlfriend came and picked him up, and then he drove off home in his car with the bumper hanging off the side. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I've looked him up, and I don't really have a good judge of his character right now. There's been nothing proving that he's redeemed himself in the situation. Obviously, with car accidents, even if you are clearly at fault, the whole insurance company's like, don't admit fault and don't say you're sorry, and it's just stupid, so litigious. I'm like, why can't you just have integrity? Like, that's what I like. Just have integrity and just do the right thing. He had this t-shirt on that said, like, God is everywhere, God is good, and he had a cross around his neck. I said, okay, practice what you preach, right? Have integrity, be a good person, love thy neighbor. Don't crash your car into my van and run a red light in the meantime. So yeah, so that's just, I don't know. It's really uprooted a situation that I had no part of until I got hit. Like, I had no involvement in creating that situation of destroying my van, and all I was doing was turning on a protected green. So that's the thing that's kind of the bummer, is that I wasn't road raging, I wasn't pissing anyone off or getting someone to like swerve in front of me. I was just minding my own business and turning left, and I'm uprooted. I'm out of sorts. I'm in pain. My neck is hurting. It's still throbbing. I still have that throbbing headache that won't go away. And I'm going to go to the VA probably after the interview, depending how I feel. It's a warm day today. we're just going to walk around in the area, so that'll be nice. She said, like, do you know any trailheads? It's a good like place to talk. I said, yeah, Embedido is fantastic, and it's not going to be the sun's not going to be beaten down so much. We're meeting at noon, and so I'm just hoping they have me in the right angle with the sun. But yeah, I mean, it's okay in this day and age to say, yeah, I'm really not happy about what this other person did to me in whatever capacity, and I will do everything I can to replace everything that was broken or stolen or destroyed in a fire or destroyed in a flood. And sometimes you have to crowdfund and crowdsource, but you also have to pay it forward. When you get back on your feet, you have to pay it forward. You have to make sure that you do the same for someone else when you have the means. I'm not saying, like, you know, help someone else and like let your kids starve. Like, no, like, feed your kids first, like, feed yourself, like, keep yourself healthy. But when you have the means, like when I, you know, a couple months later when I got the job at the university and I got my full-time steady paycheck, and I thought, okay, well, at the end of the year in December, before the end of the year, I'm going to go make a charitable donation. And I donated $1,500 to various little organizations around Houston, and just kind of paid it forward. So, you know, I mean, I could just give all the money back to everyone that helped me, but, you know, I believe in karma. So I was like, you know what, I'm not just going to give all the money back to them. I'll go and pay it forward. I'll donate it to a charity, and I let them know too. I was like, hey, just to let you know that I'm going to match the donations and pay it forward. So you have to do that. You've got to balance the universe. But it is hard to, like, because there's a lot of criticism. People go, oh, you know, you're just a stinky hippie in a van. I'm like, probably, but I'm not. You know, like, it's so many of us live full time in our vans, and so many of us are what they say digital nomads or run businesses, and we don't want to pay rent when we're not home. For me, it's like I spent the first year wanting to go, or like the first 2 years wanting to go to like all the state national parks and all this stuff. And then when Jeff got in his crash and I was in the trauma center and I was talking to some of the other patients, well, because Jeff was, you know, his brain was pretty much gone. So we were trying to do orientation and things like that, but it was really difficult to really kind of get him to remember what day it was and why he was in the hospital and why he was missing a leg. But I started talking to all of the different patients, and many of them got hit by cars. There was a lot of motorcycle crashes. There were a couple Mexican nationals that were shot at the border trying to cross the wall over in Tijuana. So they had border patrol agents sitting outside of their room until they were healthy enough to just be like tossed over the fence. I was like, that's just terrible, but that's what they did. So my ears are popping now because I'm going down an elevation. What a beautiful drive though. But yeah, so I talked to the different patients, and they were all very much like, I want to get back on my motorcycle. I'm like, no, we'll get you on a mountain bike. But they were like, you know, especially the ones that jumped off the Coronado Bridge, the suicide attempts. There are a lot of those people. If you don't know what the Coronado Bridge is in San Diego, it's a big bridge, and there's a suicide hotline when you drive up on it. And I've been on that bridge since high school. We'd go down to San Diego, drive over the bridge to Coronado Island, and spend a couple hours there at the island. It's really cute, very, very cute. But people do jump off it, just like they jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so they survived and paralyzed from the neck down, and all they want to do is get a second chance at life. So I got into thinking, well, there's the Paralympics going on right now, which is badass. I mean, like one-legged skiers. I mean, they're so amazing, like how resilient humans can be. I mean, we're lazy as hell sometimes, but then when we have adversity or we have some sort of life-altering or body-altering event, we become pretty resourceful. And I got to thinking, well, hey, this sounds like something I could probably try to figure out. I mean, I can build websites, I can probably build a business model. And so yeah, and then in January 2024, one of my friends who's also a van lifer suggested that I start a nonprofit, and I didn't even think about it. I had an LLC, and I didn't realize that you could actually like ask other people to help you, you know, give money away. So he helped me start the nonprofit, donated his lawyer, and we got everything set up and official. And then in January of 24, I kind of put everything on hold for 6 months to take care of Jeff. And then I went off to Utah I was in Vegas for like 4 months, and then Utah for a month, and then went to Montana. Sorry, ears are popping. Went to Montana for like 2.5 months or so. pat each other on the back. And the Yellowstone Club had a bunch of like head honchos and government fancy people. So yeah, but one of the hostesses, she's from Jamaica. They have a lot of employees in the hotel industry out in Big Sky, which is where the Yellowstone Club is, and where I was mountain biking. So where I broke my wrist. But yeah, so she let me in the back door, and I bought a dress, and I like snuck in there, mingled at this like. I mean, I was pretty sure I saw like politicians, and I was like, oh, I know who that person is. Yeah, I'm not gonna say names, but I saw a lot of people I recognized, and handed my card out. Not a single one cared. Not a single one gave a shit about helping anyone except each other. So there you go. But I tried. But yeah, so then kind of just went through a government shutdown in November. So that was great, sarcastically. And then started 2026 in a really good place. Did the scuba diving trip. Had a couple veterans on that boat with us, which was great. A couple Canadian Army veterans as well. They were combat medics for the Canadian military, and it was fantastic. And then I got hit by a red light runner. So yeah, 2026 was starting off great until March 10th. And so hoping that second quarter, April through June, is going to be a little better than what I was dealing with right now. So yeah, so we'll do this news thing. I'm not really, you know, it's funny, like I can talk forever to like people I know or people I don't know. I'm not really shy in that regard. Like I'm an extroverted introvert. So I'm not shy. Like I can go on the news, I don't care. Like I'm talking to you guys and I can talk to a camera, no problem. I'm a journalist. But if I'm at a cocktail party, I pretty much shut down, close up, and just hang out by the food. And there's always somebody louder than me at cocktail parties anyway, so I just kind of let them talk. Got my ID card and all that, insurance cards and passport and whatever else I carry. Yeah, I carry the passport just in case someone with like a net jet is like, hey, we're getting on a plane, we're going to like, you know, Switzerland for the weekend. I was like, I have a passport, I can go, and it's never happened. Never happened. Anyway, the one time I leave my passport at home, there'll be a guy with a net jet ready to like take 10 people on a trip to Europe. Anyway, but my t-shirt is itching me. Why is this itching me? I've got like these like Aeropostale t-shirt. So I'm wearing like a little sporty outfit. So I was gonna wear like, you know, different leggings and kind of a more of a sweatshirt thing, but it's hot. So I'm gonna wear this more sporty workout gear because I think we're just gonna kind of walk and talk on the trail, which I think will be a nice backdrop. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. And here I am stuck in traffic because there's an overturned car. I don't see any ambulances, so I'm really hoping that person is okay. But yeah, this is probably the breaking news for today. But yeah, people just, oh my god, they can see so far ahead that they think that they're in the clear to go as fast as they want. And this is what I said in my interview. I don't know what they're going to use on the interview, but I was like, hey, I just want people to slow down. Like, you might think you have enough space because you can see for miles and miles around here because it's the desert, but you really don't have that much space between you going fast and the other person. So yeah, let me see. Hopefully they're okay.